As a former shopaholic who turned to materialism to avoid my emotions and firm my idea of self in the world, deep down I always knew there was more to life than just material goods and endless chasing of titles and experiences. I trekked along anyways because I didn't know of any better alternatives, and that was the cost of being a citizen in a hyper-capitalistic world: blind duty. But with these 7 simple habits, I remolded my world into one of mindful living and one rich in emotional wealth. We live in a time when the average person sees up to 10,000 ads a day, and the algorithm has only further optimized to better target us the right ads at the right time. I found myself waking up every day inundated with a sea of messages from various media outlets, retail stores begging and calling for my attention, and ad work emails, text messages, and my own inner voice adding to the endless chatter. I was starting each day overwhelmed and overstimulated even before I got to my morning coffee. So I decided to unsubscribe from majority of email marketing and always make a habit of opting out of them whenever presented with the option. For me, part of healing from my shopaholism means shopping for function rather than shopping for vanity, and projecting my ideas of hope on each clothing item as a promise to a better self. But emails prompting us to check out the latest arrivals and the promotional offers suggest the opposite. They really enforce the deep down insecurity and entice us that we are just one more item away from the fabulous and actualized self we want the world to see you as. So unsubscribing from retailer emails reversed the dynamic. What do I actually want rather than what do marketers and brands tell me what I want? When the emails stop coming in, I find myself not visiting all the sites I used to and only going online when there's a genuine desire to seek out an item rather than participating in endless cycles of tempting trends. And the same goes for media notifications. Media outlets are masters of disguise by repackaging content as truth, social activism, and obligatory knowledge for us with one main objective: conceal their main source of revenue: ads. The industry relies on time spent on each platform to increase the number of ads they can serve you. After turning off the notifications that promise breaking news would enlighten my life and make me a responsible citizen, I would serve less ads and helped curb my shopping habits. As they say, if you don't see it, you don't want it. Getting in the habit of opting out and unsubscribing from the endless selling messages helped me carve out more mental clarity so I can really focus on my emotional wealth. But at some point, it occurred to me that even muting the notifications wasn't enough. The media outlets preys on your attention with exaggerated versions of reality and hyper-focusing on the global tragedies. This is a principle called negativity bias, which capitalizes off our brain's tendencies to dwell and focus on the negative since they perceive messages of threats as more useful information for survival. So even after turning off the notifications, going onto each news platform still felt like the world was ending, when in fact those are just hyperboles of reality. For me, reading and consuming the news felt like signing onto a circus show with the loud and aggressive players demanding attention from the public and the news sources facilitating and capitalizing off of that. I felt like the news stories were affecting my overall sentiments of my life and tainting it with a negative streak even when things in my life actually felt perfectly fine. So I no longer read the news and instead read books. Initially, part of me felt like that was a really irresponsible decision not to be a global participant, but as the days went on, I found out that the really important news will always be surfaced to me naturally. I'm not a hermit, I have friends, and people will always talk about it regardless of whether I seek out that information. And of course, I always fact-checked afterwards. Reading books instead of the news rewards me with more in-depth knowledge and less non-stop circus acts. When I seek knowledge one book and one topic at a time, let my understandings marinate, they help me see life in a clearer lens that are focused on seeing the root causes of current events, my personal emotions and relationships, and build the foundation for a more connected and in tune world with others and ultimately with myself. I no longer have to chase the breadth of information to make me an informed global citizen, but can focus on the depth and what I can actually do, including dissecting the underlying beliefs of myself, those around me, and the world with a more critical lens. Cheap, attention-catching knowledge no longer bound me to an endless loop of consumption, and in-depth knowledge enriches my experiences and perspectives of the world. As I no longer read the news and nurture my emotional world with more in-depth knowledge, the relationships around me continue to change. I recognize that people just stay up to date with current events, not necessarily for the information to serve them, and really more just as social lubricants for conversational starters. And the most common form includes gossiping, which includes both celebrity culture and social circle gossip. Gossiping stands out to me as a form of escaping our own emotional workings and focusing on others to feel better about ourselves. Like the news, gossip often takes on a negative streak, giving permission to trash or belittle others to enforce our opinions and actions as right and others as wrong. So I make a habit of saying no to gossip and shift conversations to focus on how people are actually doing, not just the common good or fine, but deep down how they are actually doing. When I allow myself to share my deeper workings beyond surface level gossip or standard auto responses of "I'm good," I find myself deepening friendships that I thought initially lacked potential. By sharing and listening to each other's inner workings and vulnerabilities, I finally understand the power of human connection when borders between you versus me start dissolving. And through that, I am now finding more ways to relate and connect with every person I have a conversation with, and no longer have to rely on information I really deep down just don't care for. And saying no to gossip is continuing to heal my inner voice to become that much kinder and more positive. When we feel the burning fires of gossip, we enable ways of talking about others that ultimately circle back to our inner voice. The way we disparage one person gives permission to disparage ourselves likewise. So saying no to gossip and digging beyond the surface level conversation slowly strips away the ill nutrients feeding my inner voice and opens my world to more ways and possibilities of connecting with other people. A world rich in kinder self-talk and genuine connections. As part of enriching my depth of connection with others, I also started plunging into the depths of my own thinking and feeling to understand the richness through journaling. Though probably a cliche now in every habit video, it still bears the fruit because it really does magic. Though we often speak of how great the human brain is, we rarely highlight how little capacity our brain has to process most of its content within just itself. And that continues to haunt us in the form of habits and behaviors that limit us from living the life we want. When I journal all my deepest thoughts and worries in an unfiltered and raw way, I notice all the patterns and themes that carry the tone of my sentences. I no longer have to be the victim of my endless thoughts, but become the witness of the thoughts and can actually analyze them more mindfully and clearly. I no longer have to play both the judge and the victim at once and end up feeling overwhelmed and unsure of how I'm feeling and have a medium to pour my thoughts and heart out. When I journal, I find myself feeling loved and cared for when the journal itself provides a safe space to really help me express myself and give validity to my thoughts, feelings, and worries without judging me. The interpretation and insights come purely from me, and the journal gives me liberty and freedom to see me as is. By transcribing my own thoughts and emotions onto the journal, I give myself the headspace to dig through the rich emotional workings of myself and the capacity to actually focus on other parts of my life as well. I'm no longer alone with just my thoughts tormenting me, and journaling opens access to the deep realms of my consciousness to reveal the rich and imaginative fields. When my inner world started expanding, my excessive need to always stay connected with as many people as possible also started contracting. I used to view social obligations as a necessity, as a way of living that version of a best outgoing life that Western society prizes. Every hangout and every dinner in my mind was a potential gate to that promised bliss of thriving in a hyper-connected world. But deepening my conversations with people through saying no to gossip also filters out the connections that I thought had way more potential when I was still in the weeds of other people's businesses. And continuing to reveal my inner wealth also chips away my addictive need for an overbooked social calendar and actually makes alone time not just bearable, but actually delightful. So I say no to unnecessary social obligations and take myself to dates to spend quality time alone both in and out of the house. When I take myself on dates, I find my presence and enjoyment of experiences more weighted and abundant in nourishing thoughts and perceptions. I can experience my times at the museums or the botanical gardens or even at home through a more unfiltered lens, not distracted by someone else's commentary. The experiences become more personal and meaningful and let my emotional world have an ongoing dialogue with my surrounding environment. Every day in solitude becomes transformative little breaks that expand my horizon in a raw and honest way. My understanding and love for the world doesn't have to be swayed by others' opinions, and the intimate and personal experiences become that much more profound and moving. And when I'm done with my dates, I can deepen my friendship with others with more stories of my little adventures. And one particular form of solo dates that has proven to be healing over and over again and will forever be a habit is connecting with nature and going for walks. Many of us live in urban settings where congestion, loud street noises, and tall buildings remind us day in and day out how accomplished and great human civilizations are. Being immersed in those environments for the first 27 years of my life disconnected my kinship with nature and reinforced how important my own destiny and free will plays in a better life. But when I step into nature, even if it's man-made parks, it really reminds me of the abundance available in life and helps heal my tunnel vision mindset of needing this and needing that. Nature instills a sense of awe within us that reminds reminds us of the larger perspective of life and reminds us that we are not the only creatures inhabiting this earth. The trees, the birds, and the squirrels are all trying to get by as well, and that we may not be so different after all with us trying to survive and flourish in the modern world. Going for walks in nature gives my days a breathing break, detached from my present day problems, and reframes my scarcity mindset of not having enough and not doing enough. When I see the richness of foliage and activity in nature, my emotional tendencies to cling onto my limited mindset of resources and time become much more relaxed and expands my compassion and love for myself and for others. Sometimes at the end of the day, life may feel like one big repeat and the same old days and weeks and even months roll by and there seems to be no purpose. That's when my secret and final habit helps bring the tiniest and most profound meaning to my life: planning my breakfast ahead. I'm not a grand believer in hope because in many ways modern society has appropriated hope to become another commodified good to keep us out of staying present, but planning my breakfast for the next day is that beacon of hope and reason to get up. When I can look forward to that toast, to that coffee, it gives me that urge to sleep early and wake up to a nourishing environment. I don't have to wake up and immediately feel overwhelmed with the decisions I have to make in one day, and always know that the breakfast is my first meditative experience to gather myself before checking that email and running that errand. I always say at some point we have to move on from our parental influences, and for me planning that breakfast is the smallest way I mother and show love for myself. When I wake up knowing that I've already made plans to care for myself, I begin each day with warmth, love, and gratitude, and no matter how tough each day may be, I always have a reason to get up and try all over again. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I would appreciate a like and subscribe and a share for a friend who might benefit from this video. And until then, take care. Till next time.